Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1004B, and today's date is June 22nd, 2016, and the title of the episode is Jordan Closes Its Border with Iraq and Syria, Major Escalation. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I just uploaded today an interview with Stephen Lenman. That is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, so you can go right over to that channel and you can view it there, or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right hand side, you'll see the video there, or you can go to newssentinel.com, same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right hand side, and you can play the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, when we look at the economy and we see it continually deteriorating, the U.S. government, the agencies that are associated with the U.S. government, they realize that they need the ability to control the people. And they're going to do it in many different ways. And we talked about lists going back many reports, and we're starting to see that these lists are starting to come to light. I mean, when we look at the gun control movement, where they're trying to push the idea of putting people on lists, people now, they realize that, I understand what you're saying, when they've been collecting information on every single person. I understand what you mean by correlating the information in a database. I understand what you're saying, that there's going to be a list of certain people that can't do certain things where it violates your rights. And you know what happens with lists. It starts out with maybe the no-fly list. The list then includes those people who they don't want those people to purchase weapons. Then it includes those people who are saying things against the government. They're put on the list. And eventually what happens is this list gets larger and larger and larger in size. And there are more people on this list. Before you know it, we're in a complete surveillance state. Everyone is afraid to say pretty much anything. There is no freedom of speech. There is no freedom of the press. There is no way to keep the authorities from searching and seizing your property. And this is just the beginning. And I know a lot of people, they don't see it in the beginning. Many people don't want to see it in the beginning. I mean, we look at other countries. People just pretend like, no, this is not happening. But it creeps up on you. They do it very slowly, very methodically, and they try to spin it where it's good for you. And when we look at it, we know this is not good for us. We know the spying is not good for us. We know these false flags are not good for us. We know the violation of our rights, it is not good for us. And this is the point in time where the people have to say, you know what, we're not going along with this. Because there will be a certain point where it will be too late. We've seen this in many different countries. Because once you get to that point, they have full control. And of course, then you have the underground, then you have the people hiding in different areas, speaking to each other, trying to form a resistance. And it seems like we're heading into that area right now. But we see the U.S. Senate, they have voted down a proposal to expand the FBI secret surveillance powers after what happened in Orlando. Because the FBI wanted to broaden the type of telephone and internet records they collected, and they wanted to go to companies like Google, Verizon, and they wanted to get all this information without any type of warrant. Now, they do it now, but they were trying to pass this to say, see, it's legal now. See, it's legal now. But they do it covertly now. They were trying to bring it out in the open to say, nope, we have the right to do this. And like I said in the past, we all need to protect ourselves. We need to make sure that we're using certain types of encryption. Encrypt your email any way you can. Even if you're sending messages, just encrypt it. Make it rougher and tougher for them. Block your signal on your phone so they can't track where you go. You can use all different types of things. There's sleeves where you can slip the phone into. It's intertwined with different metals. You can get it at blockitpocket.com. You can slip your credit cards in there so no one can steal your information off the chip. You can put your iPad in there. So there's all different ways to protect yourself, just like you lock up your important documents in your home, in your safe. the same thing has to be done with electronic information. But as we move forward, and this continually happens, and these false flags continually happen, they're going to try to take away more of our rights. And we all need to stand up and say, we have had enough. Because the founding fathers, when they created this, they created it so governments couldn't do this, where they didn't become this body where it is separated from the people. Because once that happens, which we are seeing now, the government doesn't work for the people. And we have seen for a very long time, our government, they are working for foreign governments, they're working for corporations, they're working for central banks, and they could care less about the people. And this is why they have no problem using propaganda against the people. They have no problem lying to the people. They have no problem using false flags to trick you into doing things you normally wouldn't do. This shows you that this is not a government for the people anymore. And we knew from our founding fathers, I think it was Thomas Jefferson, who said, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to need to fight for your freedoms once again. And we are at that point once again, but we need to do it in a peaceful way. And I know a lot of people want to go out with guns blazing, but as a people, if we can get millions of people to march on the government, because millions of people, not thousands, not tens of thousands, millions of people in Washington, it sends a clear message. Nobody has to fire a gun. Nobody has to do anything. If you have tens of millions of people, the people have this voice that they cannot block out. And that's what we have to strive for. Now, out in North Korea, the U.S. government central bankers, they are continually pushing the idea that North Korea is this rogue country that wants to bomb everyone with nuclear weapons. Now, of course, after that nuclear weapon detonation in North Korea, where there was an earthquake, there was really no proof. There was no radiation. I haven't seen any proof. We're getting word that the U.S., Japan, and South Korea, of course, those three bodies, they have detected 2 launches of a medium-range ballistic missile, and they said this is in violation of the UN treaties because they didn't notify them ahead of time. But again, where is the proof? They haven't shown any proof, and I think we deserve proof of whatever they say. They need to prove everything they are telling us. Now, we see that the U.S., they might join Russia, France, Germany, and Ukraine at the next meeting with the Normandy 4 in July. Now, we're not sure this is going to happen because we're starting to realize that Kiev is not following the Minsk II ceasefire agreement. Kiev is out there saying that Russia and the southeastern people are not following the Minsk II ceasefire. Well, Russia put it together. They're the ones who brokered the whole thing. And, of course, they're going to follow it. Why wouldn't they? They're the ones who created it. And we can see right now that Kiev has been stalling for a very long time. Now, Kiev is out there, and they are hoping, with the help of Victoria Nuland, that they will be able to get lethal weapons from the U.S. They're hoping the U.S. is going to decide to supply them with lethal weapons because we know they have the money already allocated to help with non-lethal weapons. They're hoping they're going to include lethal weapons, but we already know covertly that these weapons are being brought into Kiev. And we see right now that they're using this idea that Russia is stepping up their activities in eastern Ukraine. This is coming from Kiev. And they're saying that there's an outbreak of aggression, and it's continually getting worse and worse. It's being done by Russia. And at this point, Russia is not going to do that. We've seen the way Russia works. And they're not just going to come out and start invading Ukraine and being very aggressive in Ukraine at all. And what we are seeing is that Kiev is continually shelling the southeastern people, and then the southeastern people, they have to retaliate against Kiev. And of course, that's what they report on. They don't report on the initial shelling. And this is exactly what we're seeing at this point. Now, out in Germany, we see Merkel pushing the idea that they need to increase their defense spending to cope with external threats. They're saying that they can't depend on the US, and the EU is completely incapable of defending itself. And what we're seeing is that many of the countries right now, they're increasing their military budgets. They are increasing military assets. They are increasing the number of troops in their country. And we've been seeing this happen for quite a while. And all of this is in preparation for what is coming, and that is a world war. And we see that Russia is continually trying to help with peace negotiations around the world. I know a lot of people are like, no, Russia wants war, Russia wants war. But when we looked at the actions of Russia, they had many chances of pushing war. Back in 2013, when the United States was ready to bomb Syria because of the sarin gas attack, Putin could have just let it happen, taken the side of Assad, we would have had war. In Ukraine, instead of brokering 2 peace deals, they could have said, you know what, it's time to get into war, let's do it. In Syria, they could have just had an entanglement of Russia and U.S. forces, and he could have started war there. Instead, he went to the U.S. and said, listen, let's broker a ceasefire peace deal. Let's work together. And the U.S. denied it, and then the U.S. said, okay, we're losing ground here. Russia is pushing back our proxy forces. Let's push this idea of a ceasefire to buy us some time. And then Russia said, you know what, why don't you work with us? And the U.S. continually declines. So we are seeing right now that the U.S. is pushing war around the globe, Russia pushing peace. And we're seeing right now, as we move forward and we move down into this year, the United States government central bankers, they're going to continually push war. They're not going to stop because the economy is failing. It's deteriorating. It's at its end stage here. And they know this. Now, very interestingly, Russia is planning to set up a free database on thousands of near-Earth objects, including those publicly listed in open catalogs of the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD. Now, NORAD's database provides details of thousands of satellites launched, destroyed, or still functioning. It also shows satellites of Russia, but it does not show satellites of Japan, France, Germany, and Israel. So Russia, they're going to create their own database, and they're going to show the satellites of the United States. Very interesting. Now, the U.S., they've been testing the Boeing X-37B spacecraft, and this has undergone orbital tests, and it carries the Advanced Extremely High Frequency, AEHF, system, which is able to survive a nuclear blast, and if communication should fail, this system would be sent into space and it would handle all communications. So they've been testing this and preparing for this. And this is something that we need to keep in mind about what their plans are for war that is coming, because we know it will go nuclear. Now, Iraqi forces, they are beginning an offensive into southern Mosul. The moderate rebels, they've captured a T-90 tank, and they handed the T-90 tank over to al-Nusra. Well, we can see at this point they are working together. In Raqqa, the Syrian armed forces, the Russian forces, they're having a very difficult time there. And we're getting reports that the Islamic State, they are using homemade rockets filled with nerve gas. And a lot of the troops are being hit with this, and the Syrian armed forces, they are retreating at this point. So we can see again, once again, the proxy army of the United States government central bankers, they are using chemical weapons. Now, we understand and we know that the Syrian war, it's going to escalate. And we're starting to see that certain indicators are telling us that, yes, something is about to happen here. And we already see that military assets, troops, drills are all going on at the same time. And Russia, Syria, and Iran, they know what the U.S. is up to. They had enough of U.S. foreign policy shadiness because every time they work with them, the U.S. decides to change things or they lie about it. And they're starting to realize they cannot make a deal with the U.S. They can't trust them. And the U.S. has just been buying time. Syrian field commanders, they expect in the coming weeks a major escalation in the situation in the north and east of Syria. Iranians, they're sending more troops. Some have already arrived. Russia is making a new set of plans. They're going to implement these plans in Syria. They're going to change their tactics. The Russian Defense Ministry, they have met in June, the 18th of June, and they're deciding to send in Russian troops. They're going to be deployed into Syria in the next couple of weeks. So something is occurring in Syria right now. And it seems like they're getting prepared for some type of major escalation. On another note, the minister, Ahmed Mohammed Deeb Khamis from Syria, he is the energy minister. He has the task now of forming a new government under Decree 187. Does this mean Assad is going to be stepping down? Absolutely not. Only the people can decide if he steps down, and that is with an election. Now, of course, something could happen. He could be assassinated. The U.S. might try some other tactic. But at this point, for Assad to step down, the people need to say, we don't want you in power. Now, something very interesting. Jordan, they have closed their borders with Syria and Iraq. They're saying they're military zones right now. There was a bomb that went off, and they decided, you know something? We need to close the borders. They said any vehicle, personnel movement within these areas that move without prior coordination will be treated as an enemy target and dealt with firmly. Now, we understand out in Jordan, there have been drills going on. A lot of military assets, a lot of troops, a lot of the equipment was left in this area. This looks like it is another indicator that something is about to happen. Now, we've seen this before back in 2015, 2014, 2013. And we're starting to realize, we're starting to see the same exact signs occur over and over and over. Because remember, they might change their tactics, they might reorganize, make new plans, but their goal is always the same. Now, we understand that the U.S. government central bankers, as this economy continually deteriorates, they're going to have some type of an event. What it's going to be, we don't know yet. We have some ideas of what they're going to do. And very interestingly, Defcon warning system, that moved to condition yellow, Defcon 3. Alert status for 9:43 p.m. Sunday, June 19th, Defcon 3. Now, the Defcon warning system is a private enterprise which monitors world events and assesses nuclear threats against the United States by national entities. And it's not affiliated with any government agency and does not represent the alert status of any military branch. But very interestingly, they moved this to yellow. Now, is this because of what's happening in the Middle East? Is this because of North Korea? We don't know at this point. But one thing this does tell us is that something is about to happen. Something is getting readied. Something is prepared. And we understand that the U.S. government central bankers, they're not going to sit by and just let the economy fall apart. People have been asking me, what happens if they decide to do absolutely nothing? What happens if, you know what, we're not going to go to war, let the economy crash? Well, think about it for a second. Since 2008, the president has been out there, the Fed has been out there, the corporate media has been out there. They've been telling us that the economy is improving. We're recovering. Everything's getting better. And up to this point, the president even came out that said that anyone that doesn't believe me, that the economy is doing much, much better, that we're recovered, they're peddling fiction. So they kind of put themselves in a corner. Because if the economy decides to completely fall apart out of nowhere, everyone's going to be scratching their head saying, well, wait a minute. What just happened here? You've been telling us that we're fine. Everything is perfect. Why all of a sudden did the economy come crashing down? How do they explain this away? It's going to be very, very difficult for them to do so. What are the people going to do? Hopefully, the people say, you know something? We've had enough of private Western central bankers. You know what? We've had enough of this government. It's time to make a change. Now, do you think they're going to let it happen and play out this way? Not from the actions that we've been watching. Most likely not. They would want to cover up as much as they possibly can to avoid blame. Remember, they continually lie to the people over and over. Lie on top of lie on top of lie. They're not just going to come out all of a sudden and tell you the truth. So at this point, what we're looking at is that they are definitely going to have some type of an event. Somehow, some way. It could be completely unexpected that we never even thought of, but something will happen. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.